Good afternoon, Spartan Nation. It is 12:30 on the dot on this Thursday, the 13th of March. My name is Lisa Parker, and I am the Director of Alumni Professional and Personal Enrichment with the MSU Alumni Association. Welcoming you to today's Professional Series webcast. Thank you so much for joining us today and for your participation. I have a few procedural notes for you before we get started. First of all, these webinars are intended to be interactive, so you are welcome to pose questions for our presenter, Michelle Manikowski, in the chat area. Joining Michelle in the chat area as she demonstrates today's Talent Connect tool will be Jessica Scott. This is a lot of content to go through, and so Michelle's focus will be on her demo while Jessica will be assisting with the questions that you pose. Jessica joined us 2 weeks ago and demonstrated the same tool from the employer perspective. So today it is your turn to be in the spotlight as individuals looking to connect with opportunities in Michigan, whether you are currently in Michigan or hoping to move back. One more note about this series: the Professional Series webcasts are consistently available on the second and fourth Thursday of the month. Our next webcast will be featuring Monique Field, who's the Associate Vice President of Governmental Affairs for Michigan State University, and she will be discussing My Spartan Impact to share MSU's influence across the state from an economic standpoint, from recruitment standpoint, and a whole bunch of fun stuff. So we hope you can join us for that. So those notes aside, let's move on to begin our introduction of Michelle. Michelle Manikowski is a fellow Spartan. Hoorah! She is a project coordinator for the Talent Enhancement Team at the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, also known as the MEDC. She works on several talent programs that work to connect Michigan employers with talent, and will be sharing this tool, and we'll be able to discuss with you today some in-person options for reaching out and spending time with Michigan employers. So without further ado, Michelle, I will turn the mic over to you.
Hi everyone, thank you for that lovely introduction, Lisa. Welcome to today's webinar on how to use the Pure Michigan Talent Connect system. As you can see, I'm currently open to the homepage here, and there's a few things I just wanted to show you on the homepage. As you can see, there's 70,000 jobs available right now on Pure Michigan Talent Connect, and counting. Of course, employers are always posting to the site, so it's a good idea to check back often. Down here, you'll see a little section called Featured Jobs. These are positions in which employers are having difficulty finding candidates for, so we feature them on our homepage in hopes that job seekers like yourself will take a closer look at these jobs here. Down at the bottom, there's a link here for tutorials. These, I believe, are getting updated this week as well, so they will be up to date, showing all the cool new features that are currently on MyTalent. So if there's any questions after today's tutorial, after today's webinar, I recommend taking a look at those tutorials to see if that can answer any of your questions. Up here at the top of the screen, you'll see a link for newsletters. We have two types of newsletters, one for employers and one for job seekers. It's a bi-weekly newsletter for job seekers, and this newsletter will send you, again, some more of the featured jobs that you see here, perhaps some upcoming events that you might be interested in, employers that we're featuring because they're doing some kind of mass hiring in Michigan. So really just some great information if you're interested in signing up for that. Over here we have our career events calendar. This is to promote upcoming career events that are happening in Michigan. So career fairs or workshops or anything like that that an employer submits to us that wants to help promote. So that's another great tool to kind of take a look at. MyTalent is absolutely filled with all different kinds of resources for job seekers. Of course, we partner very closely with the Michigan Works offices. They are, of course, very close to us. They do resume reviews. They can help you set up your profile, search for jobs, all of that kind of stuff. One thing to note on Pure Michigan Talent Connect is you do not actually need a profile in order to search for jobs. However, a lot of the features that are available are only available to you if you have a profile. So if you choose not to, if you choose not to have a profile on My Talent, you can search for jobs using this field here, and of course have additional search options here. Most of this webinar is going to take place on the training environment. That way, as I'm going through and applying for jobs, my resume won't actually be sent out. So I'll switch over to the training environment now. And you'll see on here that it only says that there are 3,000 jobs available in the system, not too many featured jobs. So I'll go ahead and sign in as a job seeker. Later on, I'll sign in as an employer as well, and you can see exactly what the employer sees when they're searching for candidates. So when you first sign on to Pure Michigan Talent Connect, you're taken to your workspace. And this is kind of a summary of everything that you have on your profile, jobs you've applied to, saved searches that you've done, anything that is pertaining to your job search. So you'll see up here in red letters it says that I have chosen not to share my information or be viewable by employers. So there's an option on My Talent that you can choose to have your profile be private. This would be used if you were currently employed somewhere and maybe you didn't want your current employer to know that you were searching for jobs, anything like that. You can make your profile be private. Of course, having a public profile is better for searching for jobs because then employers can search for you and seek you out. This first section up here is the Save Jobs section. So this is where, in case you're going through and doing some job searches and you come across a few positions that maybe you want to take a look at later or you want to remember to apply to them later, you can save them here in this section, and I'll show you how to do that from the posting. Of course, you can see that it lists the expiration date of the job, the date that you saved it, and some more information on here, and you are able to go back and delete them later as well. You can save up to 30 jobs in your saved search. Over here is the Applied Jobs tab. A new feature of My Talent is employers now have the option to let candidates apply through the system. So on some jobs there's a little checkbox that says that you can just apply now and it'll automatically send your resume over to that employer. So this would keep track of those jobs on here so you can see what jobs you've applied for. Down here is of course all of your information for your profile. So you can save up to 3 resumes on the system, and you can determine which one is your primary resume by clicking on the little tab here. You have 2 options. You can upload a resume from a Word or PDF document, or you can actually build a resume in the system. I'm going to go ahead and delete one of these so I'm able to go in and build a resume. Of course, with building a resume, there's 3 different options for how you can format your resume. So if you want something creative and formatted differently, you would of course want to upload one. So I'll come over here to build a resume. And this is especially useful if you're bouncing around a lot and maybe you don't have your resume on a flash drive or anything like that. You can just access it directly through the system. So you would name it, enter in any information you have. You have 3 options. You can do a chronological, a functional, or a combination. You can put in your information and see which one you like best just by changing the options. You can put in all of your information that you would have on your resume, so your school, any certificates you have, etc., etc. And of course, I'm not going to fill in all of this, but just to show you. So it's just reminding you to save and preview in case your browser times out. So after you complete it, you will then have a resume uploaded on the system that you can use to send to employers and apply for jobs. So I'll come back over here to my workspace. Log me out. That warning sign is just because I'm on the test environment, so it's just warning me about that, but that obviously will not be there on yours. All right, so you can see that the resume I just built is right on here, and I would be able to set that to my primary and of course update or delete it. Over here on your Documents tab, you can upload up to 30 documents, and this would include any cover letters or maybe past work examples, examples of your writing skills, things like that. So you can upload up to 30 documents to your profile. Over here is your public profile. So if you choose to make your profile be public, this is what employers see when they're searching for candidates. Some really important things to note about your profile are these top skills and your career categories and types. Anything that is seen here on this page, this is what employers will find you based on. So if you do not have any skills in your skill boxes and you only have your skills listed in your resume, the employer will not be able to find you because when they search for keywords, it'll pull from these top skill boxes. So we highly recommend filling up these skill boxes as much as you can from keywords from your resume. So I'll come down here to edit and show you a little bit about what that looks like. So of course you have your main contact information, email address, things like that. Under career information, you can say what kind of career status you're currently in. So if you're open to opportunities, career explorer, actively searching, there's not any huge difference between these two. Employers aren't going to necessarily look at that. It's just kind of as a way to say what kind of job seeker you are. Desired position level, you can say if you're available part-time, your highest education level completed. If you're a recent future college graduate, you can actually put in your college, Michigan State University, go green, of course. You can say your major, concentration, when you graduated. You can also add certificates and licenses. So let's say you have a certification in something and you wanted to put that in there, and then employers could find you based on that. Down here, the career categories and types. This was created so that as a state agency, we can identify skill gaps in Michigan. So a lot of employers use this to search for candidates, but really it's so that we can see how many job seekers have these career categories and types versus how many jobs have these career categories and types. That way we can identify skill gaps and better create our programs to identify those needs. So down here in the top skill boxes, like I said, this is probably the most important thing about your profile. These boxes can hold up to 150 characters apiece. So you want to just list out any kind of skills you have using keywords. Down here you can say whether or not you're a veteran, and you can allow employers to see your veteran status if you would like. One important thing to note is when employers post a position, for the first 24 hours, it's only viewable to veterans. So if you are a veteran, you have the advantage of seeing the job posting 24 hours before it's available to the public. Down here is location preferences. So this is not where you're currently located, it's where you would like to be located in Michigan. Of course, you can click any willing to relocate if you're willing to work anywhere in Michigan. Down here is that employer search preference that popped up when I first signed in. It says I do not want the information given above to be viewable or searchable by employers. I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that so my profile will be public and I'll be able to find myself later in a search. So I'll click save on here. Go back to my workspace. So now that I've updated my profile, the next box down here is for save searches. So once we go in and do a job search, I'll show you that you can actually save the search if you really like the kind of jobs that are populating in the search. So that way every time you don't have to be typing in the search criteria, you can just choose a search that you want to go to, show result. There's different email notifications you can have. So you can choose not to have any. You can have a daily or a weekly. And so this will automatically email you and let you know what jobs have been added to the system that match the search criteria that you've saved. So that's kind of a really helpful thing if you're a very active job seeker. And you can save up to 5 searches. Down here, this is where you can see how many times your resume has been viewed by employers and how many times you've appeared in search results. This is really helpful to determine how well your profile is filled out. If you create a profile and these numbers don't seem to be going up, you might want to take a look at your profile and see what kind of skills you can add, how you can make your profile be more appealing, and you can, of course, reset the views here. So I'm going to actually go in and do a job search so you can kind of see what it looks like through the My Talent system. Let's say I want to search for jobs that have one of the three following skills here in the keywords, and I want to stay in Lansing. You can select a radius, so I'll do 25 miles. You can search by specific job titles, which of course isn't always the best way to do it because not all employers will name their jobs exactly the same thing, but if you're searching for something very specific, that would be good. You can search by education required, the career categories and types that I mentioned earlier, job level. The advanced search options are available as well, so if you actually know the job code number of the position you're looking for, you can type that in here. If you know of an employer that you are really looking to work for, you can start typing it in here and you can see if they have postings currently on there and choose it that way. You can also do it by any of these pay options or job characteristics, and you can also choose to exclude things from staffing company recruiters or jobs from other boards. Of course, anything that you put in the search options, the more you put in the search options, the less results you're going to get. So we recommend starting off kind of with minimal search options, and then later I'll show you how you can refine your search in case you want to get less results. So this search pulled up almost 2,000 jobs that matched my 25-mile radius from Lansing with these three keywords. So that's kind of a lot for me. I think I'll go in over here to the side under the Refine Search bar and refine that down a little bit. So maybe I want only jobs that require a bachelor degree and are entry level. So you can apply the changes on here. So this brings me to 147 results, which is a little bit more manageable. So let's say I'm looking at these search results and I really like the type of search results I'm getting. So this is where in this box over here you can save your search. So I can call this my technical skills search. So this is where you can set up if you want no email notifications daily or weekly, save it, and then it'll populate onto your workspace, onto your main page. On your search results, you can of course display 50, 25, or 100, and you can sort by relevance, posted date, title, or city. Relevance would be any jobs that maybe contain all three of these words would be up at the top, versus at the bottom of the list would be if it only had one of these words in the job posting. And of course, posted date, title, and city are self-explanatory. So let's say I come in here and I'm interested in these two jobs, one at MSU-FCU and one at Emergent. So when you look at the posting, you'll see the title, of course, the employer, the job code number. The employer fills in all the information about the job description, requirements. Off to the side here, you'll see some more details about the position. Some employers choose to put a link to their website. Some employers choose to put multiple career types. So this is where those career categories and types match up to the job seekers. Of course, the expiration date, which is important to note. Location, education, job level. So for example, this may be a job that maybe it expires tomorrow, but I don't have time to read it all right now. I can come over here and click on Save, and this will save to my workspace under that Save Jobs category that I showed you earlier. You can also email it to yourself, report it, print, and share via social media. So if you come down to the bottom here, you click on the How to Apply instructions, and this is however the employer wants you to apply, they will put the instructions in here. So it looks like for MSU-FCU, they're redirecting you to their company's website to fill out an application. So you would click on there and of course apply through their website. Take a look at this one here. This one is similar. It has a lot of the same information off to the side. They also chose to put in some job characteristics. You can see that it's full-time, medical benefits provided. Down here, when you click on how to apply, this is an employer that made it so that you as a job seeker can actually apply directly through the My Talent system. This is a new feature that we just added a couple weeks ago. So there's not very many jobs out there right now that have this feature, but we're hoping to get more employers on board with this. So of course the how to apply instructions usually would redirect you to their company's website or someplace else to send your resume to. Here it's saying that you can apply now by clicking this button. It'll automatically populate an email for you, which you can of course take out any of this information that you'd like, write anything in there that you'd want to include. You can select which one of your resumes you want to be included and any of your documents. So let's say you wanted to upload your cover letter as well. And you would click send, and that automatically sent your resume to that employer. So you'll see now that it says save successfully. So when you come back over to your job seeker workspace, you'll see that under applied jobs, I now have that job listed as I applied on today, March 13th. I applied to this job. I can edit this if I want to leave any notes. Like let's say I want to remember to follow up. Save that so you can write little notes for yourself. The other cool thing about this is you can add other applied jobs to here that maybe you didn't apply to through the system. So let's say you actually applied to this MSU-FCU job. You can take the job code number, or actually I saved it under my saved jobs. So on here, the MSU-FCU jobs, now that it's saved in my saved jobs, I can click applied and type in the date that I applied. Again, type any notes that I want, save it, and it'll go over to my applied jobs. So this is a really great way to be able to track what jobs you're applying for so that you can follow up as necessary. This little M here just means that you applied through My Talent, so you'll be able to remember how you got your information to them. So that's kind of the basics of your workspace. Of course, up here at the top, this is where you can get to all of your main functions: job search, workspace, building a resume, your account information. These other tabs up here are just filled with all kinds of resources that you can take a look through. There's all kinds of information on current, recent graduates, entrepreneurship, just a ton of information, internships, all of these resources. I mean, there's just a ton of resources available to job seekers in Michigan to find employment, so I highly recommend you take a look at what we have to offer there. I'm actually going to sign out and sign in as an employer. That way you can see kind of what things look like from an employer point of view, which I think is helpful to kind of know maybe how you want to set your profile up. So when you sign in as an employer, it's similar to how a job seeker's main page is. So this is the employer dashboard. So they can come in here and see what kind of jobs they have posted, what jobs are inactive, what jobs they're currently working on. And they can also save candidate searches. So similar to how a job seeker can save searches that they find that are working very well, employers can save their candidate searches. So what they do is they come up here and click on candidate search. And it's just kind of like the reverse of a job search. So they might come in here and say, I want a candidate that has Java, HTML, CSS skills. I want them to be in the Lansing area because I don't want to make them have to relocate. And submit. So as you can see on here, it says there are 28 candidates found. Again, this is on the training website, so there's a lot fewer job seekers. Currently in My Talent, there are roughly 200,000 active job seekers. And what that means is there are 200,000 profiles that have been signed into and edited in the last 90 days. So we call those our active job seekers. As you can see, my name comes up in the search results. This little eyeball on here just means that the employer has viewed that job seeker before, so they actually open up the resume and looked at it. The veteran symbol, of course, means that that job seeker has identified themselves as a veteran. And this little envelope here means that the employer has directly emailed the candidate through the system. So similar to how a job seeker can email an employer through the system, an employer can reverse that and email the candidate. So they come through, they take a look at these profiles, and this is why I said your top skills are very important. So as you can see, those 3 skills that I listed are highlighted. And as an employer is going through, they can choose whether or not to open the resume to take a closer look. So having a very strong profile is a good idea because it kind of is your first step. It's your first impression on the employer. So I don't know if any of you already have profiles, but an employer can click on your name here and click on email to candidate. Some of you may have profiles and have received these messages before. These emails will come from a webnoreply@michigan.org address. Now the employer can, of course, delete this and write anything they want in here. A lot of employers will just keep this basic information and type in their job title. But basically, this will send an email to the job seeker stating, I've taken a look at your profile on My Talent and I feel that you should apply for my position. So if you've ever received any of those, or if you do in the future receive any of those, that's kind of how that happens. So that's basically it from an employer standpoint that I wanted to share with you all, just so you can see how important it is to have your profile filled out. I think that's pretty much it. I've gone over how to search for jobs, how to save searches. Does anyone have any final questions? I know Jessica's been answering questions in the chat room, but if anyone has anything they'd like me to show you on the webinar, please let me know.
Michelle, I have a number of questions, and they're not specifically things that would require a demonstration, but just I would like to talk strategy with you for a little bit. For one, I've heard before, at least on the former version of the Talent Bank, that in order to show up more frequently in searches, it's important to update your profile regularly or log in regularly so the database gets the sense that you're still in an active search. Is that correct?
So to answer that, after 90 days, your profile will become inactive. So you want to make sure to sign in every 90 days at least in order for your profile to remain visible. However, it used to be that employers could search by your last edited date. They actually changed that, so now they can search by last login date. So it's not necessary to go in and edit your profile as long as you're logging in. Employers will be able to search and see how active of a job seeker that you are. So for example, I would come down here and see that, well, Michelle has logged in very recently, and maybe a person down here hasn't really logged in a few months, so maybe they're less active. So it's a good idea to be logging in, but you don't necessarily have to edit your profile every time you log in.
If you are logging in regularly, like say once a week or multiple times a week, and the search results that the employer receives contain, I don't know, 300 candidates, does the frequency of login move you higher up the ladder in terms of visibility, or what determines what order the potential candidates show up in their search results?
Sure. So when an employer does a candidate search, it defaults to sorting them by relevance. So this would be, like I said, if a job seeker had all three of these skills listed in their profile, they would come up higher to the top. The employer can decide how they want to sort it. So if they only want to see people who have logged in the last week, they have the ability to do so. However, it automatically defaults to the relevance in their search results.
Okay. In terms of the employers as they conduct these searches, a number of individuals, either they're looking to relocate back to Michigan or they are living in areas of the state, maybe because of the economic downturn with relatives, but not in their ideal area of where they'd want to work. How common do you think it is for the employers to do the radius search within a zip code, like within 25 miles of what have you? And if it doesn't make sense for example, those who are in Seattle who want to move back to Michigan, to use an address of a friend or relative that is near the area they would want to be working, so they'd be more likely to show up in a search.
That's a really good question, actually. So employers can decide if they want to search by location preference or if they want to search by where that job seeker is currently living. We obviously try to educate employers to use the location preference, because even though a person may have a California zip code, it doesn't mean that they don't want to live in Lansing here in number 7. So we try to educate employers to kind of focus on using the location preference more. I think that for some employers, they prefer to use the city and zip code just because they want to hire local job seekers if it's a lower skilled job and they don't want to have to relocate the job seeker, they might use this more. But again, it's just something that is just however the employer chooses to search for candidates. So I would say if you are from an out of state, it definitely wouldn't hurt to maybe use a different address that's in state. You might find that you come up in more search results. But like I said, it's just kind of an educational thing for employers to search by location preference.
Yeah, and I saw that frequently when I was in my recruiting years. I mean, I think a number of companies will say, well, we want the absolute best person for this job, but their search strategy usually ends up meaning we want the best person who happens to be nearby. And so I've made the same recommendations with those on Monster and LinkedIn. They don't, or I'm sorry, Career Builder. They don't realize that when recruiters buy access to those job boards, they're usually buying access to specific zip codes. So they may not even see you when you're in Seattle. So thanks for that. Another question, because I'm not seeing anybody in our chat area, what are some of the common errors that happen in the profiles that people build that you think affect their ability to make a good impression or to show up in the searches that would be a match for what they do?
Definitely. I know Jessica and I do candidate searches for employers often, so we are constantly looking through job seekers' profiles. I know one of the biggest things that I see is job seekers will list as one of their skills, see resume. So this kind of sends a message to the employer that they didn't want to take the time to fill in the skill boxes. So of course they rarely come up in search results because the system doesn't search people's resumes to find those keywords. So if you come across something that just says see resume, it's kind of a red flag of I'm not going to take the time to search through this person's resume. I just want to know if they match right away. The other thing, of course, would just be not filling out their profile completely. The more information that you can put in there is really helpful. So yeah, I would just say make sure that you use a spell checker and you're not misspelling words. There's also trying to keep in mind of what employers might be typing in as keywords. So for example, if you were to write financial in your top skills, an employer might be typing in finance and therefore you would not come up in the search results. So you want to kind of be mindful of what an employer might be searching you for and maybe list off those type of words in a few different ways so that you are more likely to come up in search results.
Are there prompts, as it relates to the skills, for example, that uh, that help job seekers and help employers be consistent, or is it necessary to be redundant? For example, are we saying MS Word as a skill and also saying Microsoft Word? What about situations where you might have the various iterations of a specific software? Are we just kind of going with SQL, or is it smart to put all the various versions that you have?
I think that that would just be up to the job seeker. Just like I said, being mindful of what the employer might be searching for. As an employer, for example, using SQL, I would probably just be searching for the word SQL instead of spelling it out. If there's a skill that you have that you really want to make sure that you are including in your profile, then I would recommend, of course, spelling it out. But we're also working on something that I think should be coming out later this year, where we're going to have some skill boxes that are populated as a checkbox. So that way it'll eliminate some of that issue with employers and job seekers matching up the keywords.
Have you noticed, I mean, one of the challenges, for example, Michigan State has a job board that we had wide open to alumni to use as well, but it's primarily an undergraduate tool. And the problem that we had when alumni were using it was it put so much weight on the actual degree that the person had. And so, for example, my background is in clinical laboratory science, which is biology, chemistry, physics, and math, and I haven't worked in that arena for 15 years. And a number of people who are more experienced workers have possibly moved away from their actual area of study. Do you feel that there are strategies that those types of individuals need to be aware of when it comes to like how much emphasis an employer might be putting in this search on their degree, or is their degree when resumes are built through this site, is that automatically going to be on top? What light can you shed on that?
I would definitely say that whatever area you're most interested in working in, I would highlight that on your profile. A really good example, similar to your example, is our VP here. She has a background in bookkeeping, so she has a lot of experience doing bookkeeping type things. However, if she was looking for a job, she would not want to find a job with anything having to do with bookkeeping. So she would, of course, want to keep that information in her resume because it's good experience to have, but she doesn't have it listed anywhere on her profile. So if an employer is typing bookkeeping into the keywords, she will not come up. So I think that as far as your degree goes, I know a lot of employers are just like it when a job seeker has a degree. So I don't think that it necessarily hurts you as long as your profile is a clear indication of what types of fields that you're really interested in working in, and your career categories and types, of course.
Is there an area on the site, and I think we saw a little bit of it when you were building the profile, where there were prompts of like popular skills noted for these types of fields or what have you. But is there an area that shows stats on the site where folks can get an idea of how many employers are searching for advanced degrees or how many people are looking for someone with Six Sigma? Is there anything like that? Or what the more popular skills were that were searched that
Not
week?
that I'm aware. Not that I'm aware of. I think that just by doing job searches, you can kind of get an idea of how many jobs are out there in specific fields, but there's not really a way to tell what employers are specifically searching for.
Do you think that most of the employers who are using this site also have jobs on the site, or are they just coming here searching without necessarily making their jobs um, open to the for public view?
Right, that's actually a really good question. So for an employer to be able to come onto the system and do a candidate search, they have to have a profile on MyTalent. In order to have a profile, they have to have their account verified using their FEIN number. So only legitimate employers in Michigan are able to post on here. So there's not going to be any kind of jobs on here that are a mother looking for a babysitter or anything like that. They have to have an actual FEIN number to prove that they are a business in Michigan. So as far as that goes, after they have their account verified, then they're able to sign on to their own specific account and do a candidate search. Of course, employers can have multiple accounts. So let's say you have a really big employer, they can have 10 different people, each with their own account, doing separate candidate searches on the system. But like I said, they just have to they have to actually have an account on MyTalent in order to search for candidates.
When you have a profile as a job seeker, as a candidate, and you're hearing from an employer and it sounds somewhat suspicious or off, or maybe it's something where you need to, it's commission only, you buy your own insurance for liability, whatever. What's the course of action in those situations?
So that would be on the actual posting. Down here, you can see this little link here that says report this job. So this will just send up a little red flag about this job, and a member from our team here will be able to go in and investigate. So sometimes we have jobs that an employer will post from an employer account, but maybe the job description will say, you know, this job is actually located in California or something like that. So this would be a situation where you could report the job and then we would be able to go in and delete the posting or contact the employer to verify that it's a legitimate job posting.
Okay, all right, that's good. And I have some questions too on some in-person interaction with employers. Before I move to that, though, I was thinking back from my recruiter days, and even from my role now, about things relating to profiles that can make or break a candidate. I remember, or sometimes the way you name your resume document on your file can be problematic. Whether there's typos in the resume document name, or maybe it's Lisa Parker's 312th resume, or I'm naming the type of resume that it is, which if I'm sending the wrong one to an employer, might raise an eyebrow by just, okay, here's Lisa's engineering resume, here's Lisa's part-time resume, or what have you. So I guess I don't necessarily, I'm just putting that out there for people to think about. Moving on to in-person interaction, because applying to a job online and waiting for a result typically isn't enough. I mean, right? So that's why you guys are doing some in-person things. What are some of the in-person opportunities around the state of Michigan that you feel are interesting and effective for individuals to participate in?
Sorry, you kind of got cut off a little bit in the middle. Do you mean what sort of events are appealing to job seekers to attend?
Yeah, and whether it's something that MEDC is organizing itself, or you regularly participate in because you've noticed it to be beneficial. What thoughts do you have?
Sure. So there are, of course, tons of job fairs that are going around. We try to have a team at most of the job fairs around, so I don't know if anyone on this webinar has attended a MSU career fair. Our team is usually in attendance at those, so those are, of course, important. Over here at the career events calendar, this is where I was talking earlier that employers or different partners like Michigan Works can submit different kind of hiring events, or for example, this Olympia Development Parking Services job fair. So this is where you can kind of take a look in here and search for different opportunities like that in your area. So you can see there's another webinar coming up for job seekers that is specific to shifting gears, but you're able to kind of take a look through here and see what sort of things are happening in your area. There's all kinds of different things. A lot of recruiters have hiring events, which I'm sure you're familiar with, having a recruiting background. So they'll actually have a date and a time and a location that you can come take your resume to and apply for a job right there. So this would just be a really good resource to kind of search through to see anything that might interest you.
Is Michigan still connected to you all and live, work Detroit, those types of things still an option or a recommendation for job seekers?
Definitely, and that is something that I showed earlier in the other resources tab. There's a ton of information there pertaining to all these different types of programs. Michigan is now known as out-of-state talent attraction. The Live Work Detroit events, of course, are all on here. A lot of information we spread through our Job Connect newsletter, which is what I showed you earlier up here at the top, that you can subscribe to. Of course, we have our virtual career fairs. I think there are 3 left for this year, so that's another great opportunity to connect with jobs in Michigan. But we, as a state agency, of course, we have a ton of different programs that cater to all kinds of job seekers. We have our Michigan Shifting Gears program that's for seasoned professionals looking for a career change. We, of course, have our Michigan Works partners that are really good to connect with to get resume reviews and one-on-one assistance with your profile. So, excuse me, so we definitely have a ton of resources as a state agency, most of which you can find on these other resources tabs.
And you have a few LinkedIn groups, correct?
Yep, I think we have one for the MEDC. I know for My Talent in particular, we have a Facebook and a Twitter page, and that's kind of where all of our programs get wrapped up into the Pure Michigan Talent Connect Facebook and Twitter page. So if you want to have any sort of information about any of our programs, that's a really good place to start.
All right. We are we had about 10 more minutes of time booked in here, but I've had my questions answered. If anybody else has any questions that they'd like to pose to Michelle, now would be a good time to do so. Otherwise, I would definitely like to thank Michelle for her time with us today. I'd like to remind I see Andrea is typing. I would like to remind our audience you can request a copy of this webcast through haynesb@msu.edu, which you'll see at the top of our chat area. And also a reminder that our professional series webcasts do take place the second and fourth Thursday of every month. We hope our content is helpful to you. We welcome the idea for suggestions on what our webcast content should be, and I'll slide my email into the chat area shortly so you can reach out to me for that. Monique Field, as I stated earlier, will be next up for us. She is our Associate Vice President of Governmental Affairs, and she will be talking about the Spartan impact in the state of Michigan. And then moving into April, second Thursday in April, we will have Pick Me, how to get your resume noticed. And then the fourth Thursday will be a presentation from our grad school career services talking about PhDs securing employment in industry and in the academy. So thank you so much for joining us today. Again, questions or comments can be sent to us directly. And Michelle, you're a great Spartan, and we really appreciate this hour that you've given us today. Go Green!
Definitely. Thanks for having me. Go Green!